a pentagram laid directly over the heart of the federal city. You want to know something they don't teach in the history books? In 1791, a French engineer named Pierre L'Enfant sat down with a blank map and a commission from George Washington himself and drew a capital city from scratch. No compromises, no accidents. Every avenue, every circle, every sightline placed exactly where he wanted it. L'Enfant was a Freemason, so was Washington, so were most of the men standing in that room. That's not a rumor, that's public record. Here's what isn't taught quite so loudly. The layout they drew has been staring back at us for over 2 centuries, and if you know what you're looking for, it stops looking like city planning and starts looking like a blueprint. Start with the streets themselves. Pull up a map of downtown Washington, trace the lines running out from DuPont Circle, Logan Circle, and Scott Circle. Connect them, extend the avenues that cut diagonally through the grid, ignoring the regular street pattern entirely. What you get is a 5-pointed star, a pentagram, laid directly over the heart of the federal city, hiding in plain sight inside what looks, to everyone else, like ordinary traffic circles. Coincidence, they'll tell you, just efficient road design. Except L'Enfant didn't design efficient roads anywhere else in the plan. He designed ceremonial ones, broad diagonal avenues slicing through a rigid grid for one reason only: sight lines, so that from certain points in the city, you could see directly to certain buildings and nothing else. Now look at the Capitol, stand at the base of the dome, and look due west. Your eye runs straight down the National Mall, past the Washington Monument, directly to the Lincoln Memorial. And if you know your Masonic geometry, that line isn't decorative, it's an axis, the kind you'd find running through the center of a temple, not a parking lot. The Washington Monument itself is an Egyptian obelisk, not a dome, not a spire, not anything found anywhere else in early American architecture. An obelisk, a symbol borrowed directly from Egyptian sun worship, standing at the exact center of the ceremonial axis linking the Capitol to the Lincoln Memorial. Why would the first generation of American statesmen, men who fought a war to escape old world symbolism, choose to plant an Egyptian monument at the dead center of their new capital? Now, turn to the money in your pocket. Flip a dollar bill over. Look at the back, left side, an unfinished pyramid, floating above a barren landscape, capped not with stone, but with a single glowing eye, the Eye of Providence. That symbol was adopted for the Great Seal of the United States in 1782. Look at who sat on the committee that approved it: Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, men steeped in Enlightenment philosophy, classical symbolism, and in Franklin's case, documented Masonic membership. The pyramid is unfinished on purpose, 13 steps, one for each original colony. And at the very top, not a capstone of stone, but an eye. Watching, waiting for something to complete it. Now here's the part that isn't speculation at all. It's in the official record, plain as day, if anyone bothers to look. September 18, 1793, the cornerstone of the United States Capitol building is laid by George Washington himself, dressed head to toe in full Masonic regalia, apron, sash, ceremonial trowel, silver, engraved for the occasion, surrounded by lodge brothers from Alexandria Lodge number 22, marching in full procession through the streets of a city that didn't have streets yet. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a documented Masonic Cornerstone Ceremony for the literal seat of American government, performed by the first president of the United States, in the uniform of a secret society founded on ritual and symbol. Nobody smuggled that in. Nobody hid it after the fact. It happened in public, with a crowd watching, and it's sitting in the National Archives right now for anyone who wants to check. So ask yourself, why would the birth of a nation's Capitol building require a fraternal ritual at all? Why would the first cornerstone of American democracy need to be laid by hands wearing an apron, instead of hands simply laying a brick? Because to the men in that procession, a building wasn't just a building, it was a vessel, and a vessel, in their tradition, needs to be consecrated before it can hold power. Now walk 2 miles south, to the Jefferson Memorial. Thomas Jefferson never joined a lodge, not officially, not that the record shows, but the men who designed his memorial, generations later, gave him a rotunda modeled directly on the Pantheon in Rome, a circular temple, open oculus, columns in perfect symmetrical order, Classical architecture, they'll tell you, just good taste, except every domed rotunda in Western history borrows from the same source. Temples built to honor gods, not men, and the men who kept choosing that shape, decade after decade, for the monuments of a supposedly secular republic. They knew exactly what language they were speaking. Now flip that dollar bill back over. To the side you actually look at first, the eagle side. Count the arrows in its talon, 13. Count the stripes on the shield across its chest, 13. Count the stars in the constellation above its head, 13. Count the letters in the olive branch's motto, A pluribus unum, 13. Officially it's a tribute. 13 colonies, 13 everything, a patriotic nod baked into the design. But numerology wasn't a fringe idea to the men who approved this seal. It was Enlightenment-era common sense. Numbers carried weight. 13 wasn't chosen once and repeated by accident 3 more times across the same tiny image. It was chosen and then reinforced and reinforced again. A number turned into a ritual, hiding inside a patriotic tribute so ordinary that nobody questions it. That's the pattern, every single time. Not hidden in a vault, not encrypted in a code only the initiated can read. Sitting in your wallet, printed by the millions, seen by every American every single day, and never once explained beyond tradition. Look up if you ever stand inside the Capitol Rotunda. Painted across the inside of that dome, 180 feet above the floor, is a fresco called the Apotheosis of Washington, completed in 1865 by an Italian-born artist named Constantino Brumidi. Apotheosis, not a portrait, not a memorial. The word means becoming a god. George Washington sits enthroned on a cloud, wrapped in a purple robe, flanked by classical goddesses, liberty on one side, victory and fame on the other. Beneath him, 13 maidens ring the base, representing the original states, gazing upward at his ascension. This isn't tucked away in some back hallway. It's directly above the floor of the United States Capitol, visible to every visitor, every tourist, every sitting member of Congress who's ever looked up during a long session. The first president of a nation built to reject kings and gods alike, painted onto the ceiling of its own capital, ascending into the heavens like Caesar, like Zeus, like every deified ruler the founders claimed they'd left behind in the old world. The official explanation is symbolic. Permanence, strength, an unfinished nation still under construction. Maybe that's all it is. But maybe a small circle of men who quietly ran the founding of a nation left themselves a signature, hidden in a street grid, hidden on a monument, hidden on the currency every one of us carries, every single day, without ever being told what we're looking at. The pentagram in the streets, the obelisk on the mall, the unfinished pyramid on the dollar. 3 separate symbols, 3 separate decades, 1 recurring signature written across the capital of the free world. Nobody hid these. That's the strange part. They're not buried in some vault. They're standing in broad daylight, walked past by tourists every single day, hiding behind the simplest explanation anyone's ever bothered to offer. Sometimes the best-kept secret isn't the one they hide. It's the one they leave standing right where everybody can see it, and nobody ever asks why.